unhappy to report that I will have to kill something very soon, and I will tell you now, I will make you this promise. That invader will die.
This live stream is somehow sponsored by Noise Fighters. They are the makers of the Cliffhang IR, which is a riser that is designed for your red dot magnifier and laser aiming module, or anything you can stick on this monstrosity. So to support those who support us, go ahead and check them out if you're in the market for some very high quality, very expensive night vision equipment. Another sponsor of the channel is going to be Optics Force. They sell, well, you can probably guess, but if you're in the market for actual night vision units or objects that can provide a theoretical point of aim, then go ahead and check them out as well. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful night tonight. Sorry about being a little bit late. It was completely my fault, as I have been having a bit of a crazy week in terms of time management. I was out actually till about 3 o'clock last night, shooting some of that stuff that you guys saw in the intro. But with all of that out of the way, how are you doing today, Gary?
It's another wonderful day. Spent some time at the hospital getting ready for the new baby, but
that's always fun. When does your wife do?
Sometime between the 8th and the 11th of
this
July.
month. Oh, okay. So you got about a month and a half. Okay, mine's in September, so I got a little bit more time. Sweet. All right. Well, we are going to be talking about a few simple, silly things today, like Giessele coming out with a new rifle that is not particularly attractive. I know some people may not be familiar with this because it is brand new, but this is the Giessele patrol rifle. Let's see if I can make that a little bit more appropriate in terms of size for you guys. Does that pull up a little better? Oh, that's slightly better. Okay, so we have the Giessele Border Patrol Rifle. Now, this retails for $1,700, which is not particularly expensive in terms of Giessele products, because the MSRP on a lot of their other Super Duty products and other rifles are north of $2,000. Not all of them, but on some of them for sure. So what are you getting with this new Border Patrol rifle? And the problem is you're not actually getting anything new on it. You're actually getting some things taken away. So for instance, on this rifle, instead of the Giessele Mark 16 rail, which is this one right here, which has 7 sides of M-LOK, a little bit heavier, steel inserts on the QDs. It's overall a slim-ish rail while still maintaining enough material to be strong and whatnot. However, on the new Border Patrol, this one here, you lose your 45-degree M-LOK. So it's just 3, 6, and 9 is where you get your M-LOK. And then, of course, full pick on the 12. And they've really skeletonized the rail. Now, the problem with this is that Bendy Bill got his name from building bendy rails that didn't like the hold. And that was specifically, I believe, the Mark 13 and Mark 14 rails, because their older rails were very, very chunky. And so with this, do they bend the rules just like that handguard will? Yeah. So again, with this handguard, they shaved a whopping 4 ounces out of the handguard. Now, most handguards, 15-inch handguards, are only going to weigh somewhere between 15 and all the way down to about 11 ounces. So when you're shaving 4 ounces off of a already existing handguard, you're losing a lot of material. A lot of material. And of course, you don't get that those extra mounting points if you want it. Now, M-LOK is a little bit heavier to machine just because you have to have more material there. So some people don't want those M-LOK slots in the back because, of course, it's just extra weight. But for a duty style rifle or a patrol style rifle, this rail is much worse, especially if you're buying your $2,000 AR and you're slapping your $2,000 light laser combo unit on front as well, and you're depending on that to hold 0. This could be a big issue. Office Computer 888 says only night vision queers cry online about the handguard bending. I mean,
well, that's us now.
Well, sure. Yeah. Well, now I have night vision, but I still care about handguards bending because I also put lights on them because lights are useful to see things. And also, if your handguard bends and starts touching the barrel and you're wondering why your point of impact shift is monstrous at 200 or 300 yards, then maybe you should invest in a better rail, especially if you're loading it up with a bipod, depending on how good the lockup is. If you have iron sights on it as well, I mean, there are like anything that touches the rail, you want it not to bend. And again, for all that loss of material and structural strength, you're only losing slash gaining about 4 ounces. Now, the funny thing on here is that they're showing you adding back M-Lock Picatinny and a M-Lock BCM QD lookalike. The funny thing about that is you're swapping out the smaller steel insert, very nicely integrated in the rail on the Mark 16 versus this new Mark 20. They're just, they're adding a lot more steel back in at the front just for reference. Of course, you don't actually have to put it there, but I just thought that was funny. Now, the problem is these were both on sale last, Memorial Day weekend sale. So they were both on sale for about $1,200. Now that's a pretty good deal for a Giessele. Giessele at $1,200 is absolutely fantastic. So keep in mind that this Super Duty was on sale for about $1,200, as well as the Border Patrol as well. Both of these for $1,200.
Do we know who makes the Giessele rails?
Giessele makes.
Do we know who their OEM is?
That Giessele is their own OEM on the rails. I'm fairly certain that's basically, well, not the only thing they manufacture, but one of the only things that they actually manufacture.
Okay.
So so somebody in the comments just said that looks like a PSA rail. PSA on their Saber line is basically copying the Giessele Mark 8 profile. So it's the other way around. But yes, they do look very similar. Not the Mark 16 / Mark 20 that this is. Now, keep in mind that, again, this 16-inch Border Patrol rifle is about $1,700, and the Super Duty is around $1,900. So there's $200 difference in price. So let's go over some of the other ways that Giessele really cheaped out, or not even cheaped out. Cheaped out is the wrong word. They overcharged for what they're selling. So unfortunately, the BCG on here is not the Giessele RE BCG. This is just a standard mil-spec-ish built BCG. Now, if you're not familiar with the Giessele RE BCG, the Giessele RE BCG is worth about $400, and a standard mil-spec Giessele BCG is about $100. So right there, they're cutting out about $300 worth of value and only saving you $200. Now, on top of that, the Border Patrol only ships with the ALG trigger, which is about a $50 mil-spec plus trigger. It's a perfectly fine trigger, no issues with that whatsoever. But again, on the Super Duty stock, you get a SSAEX, or something like that. You get a really nice trigger right out of the box. Now, on top of that, for again, only $200 more, you're also getting the upgraded controls, the semi-upgraded furniture. That can be argued whether or not you like the B5 stock to begin with. But again, for only $200 upcharge, you're getting technically better furniture, objectively a better trigger, objectively a better BCG, a 4-ounce heavier handguard, but also a 4-ounce stronger handguard. And on top of that, at the end, you can see that the new Giessele Super Duties, they come with a Huxworks muzzle device, which is about $100 usually, somewhere in that price range. They're about $100 for, of course, the Flow 556 or any of the Huxworks cans. Whereas again, on the Border Patrol, they're only giving you a A2 flash hider, which is a perfectly fine muzzle device. But again, when compared to the value of the Super Duty, it's much lower. So again, there's only $200 difference in price. And for that $200, you lose the REBCG, you lose the upgraded trigger, you lose the upgraded furniture, and then you, of course, also lose the muzzle device. So they're cutting out maybe not $1,000 worth of cost, but probably about $500 to $600 worth of cost, and only passing $200 of that savings off to you. So they are making a lot more off of this rifle than they are on a Super Duty. And so it kind of occupies this weird gray area where it's not a good value. The only possible selling point, and it wouldn't even be a selling point for me, is
Is the
that,
Giessele roll mark? Because
well,
it
well,
sounds like that's
it's,
all it is. It sounds like it's an upgraded, like a barely upgraded BCM with a Giessele roll
yeah,
mark.
you're correct. Yeah, why wouldn't I buy a BCM? I would buy a BCM over this, right? And especially keep in mind that this is stock at about $1,700. So I don't know what the selling point of this is, because again, keep in mind it's only 4 ounces lighter than the standard Giessele Super Duty, and you lose almost all of the frills. Now, also, what's weird about that is, if you're not aware, Giessele also owns and operates ALG. And the ALG rifle, which is kind of a basic mil-spec plus rifle, if you will, is $1,200. And it has the EMR rail, I want to say, and it has a standard ALG enhanced trigger, B5 stock, whatever their grip is. But I mean, I don't particularly care. And this one here, I think, even comes with a very mediocre red dot and sling for, again, $1,200. So if you're looking for a Giessele light, I just have no idea why you would ever buy the Border Patrol, other than you think it looks cool, like you think the rail looks nice or something like that. I mean, it
Or you're
still
looking
does.
for the Giessele roll mark. I'm
Well,
just
I mean,
saying.
it looks like a Giessele, right? Just because the handguard is the same, kind of the same shape as a Giessele. But other than that, there's nothing special about it whatsoever. Like, for $1,700, because again, the internals are all mil spec ish. It does still have the Giessele barrel. That is the only thing that it really retains, is the Giessele barrel, which I am a big fan of. So, for instance, on the 16-inch gun, you're going to get a Giessele length gas system, which is slightly longer. It's going to shoot very soft. It's going to be very accurate. All of those sorts of things. But you can also just buy a $300 Giessele barrel and put it into any upper that you want, and not spend $1,700 on a mil spec plus rifle. Now, somebody in the comments said that the LaRue MBT2 is their favorite trigger, and Gnome actually comes in and says that it's not that great. He prefers the CMC 3.5-pound single stage, which is commonly on sale for $99. Funny thing is, I have
No,
all of
you're
these
wrong.
triggers.
I just want you to know that you're wrong. You're allowed to have a wrong opinion.
Mhm.
The
Absolutely.
LaRue MBT2S
Mhm.
was scientifically compared to the Giessele SSAE, and it has a cleaner break, a crisper break, a more consistent break every single time, and they're made better.
Who did that testing? I didn't see
I need
that.
to look it up again.
Because I actually did get a LaRue MBT2S, and I have it in my 14.5-inch 6.5 Creedmoor right now. That was actually the trigger that I took to 1,220 yards on that guy. And
Yeah,
it might
what's
just
funny?
be because it's new, but it actually is a little bit grittier than my Giessele triggers.
So
So
a lot of people hate on the MBT2S because they're like, oh, it's a budget trigger. Well, it's not actually a budget trigger.
it
It's
doesn't feel like a budget
it only is considered a budget trigger because Mark is trolling
trigger.
Bill.
Right.
So, like, when they released the trigger, it was $250, and then in the same price bracket as the SSAE, and then they're like, you know what? Screw these guys. We're gonna sell it for $70. So
No, it's a great value trigger, and that doesn't mean that it's a bad trigger. What I'm saying is mine. Maybe it's just because I only have like 100, maybe not even 100 rounds on it yet, but it feels a little bit more gritty than my Giessele triggers. So that's why I'd be interested in who actually did that testing.
oh, that's
Now,
weird because I've
the
got
break is
4 and
fantastic.
mine were smooth. I got
Again,
4 and mine were all
this one
smooth.
here was
So,
direct from them. I got it from them at the Primary Arms Range Day because they were giving them away to people. So I got it direct from them. And the pull weight is great. It's probably 3.5 pounds top end, maybe 4 pounds top end. Feels great for $70. Really hard to beat. Somebody else also said that the Schmid 2-stage trigger, also really good. I have one of those as well. That one feels really nice. You can often find those for around that $60 to $70 price range. Those feel really good. And also, Schmidt does a lot of the OEM work for a lot of the other companies. So sometimes you'll see a budget 2-stage trigger. It's just a Schmid, which is perfectly fine. but it's a decent trigger for a 2-stage trigger. Yeah, the MBT usually you can find it on sale for about $100 is what I've seen, but 120 is probably stock. It depends on where you're looking though, so prices always vary.
They used to be $70 off the website, and then recently, as in like in the last year or so, they've increased to about 120. So, yeah,
still not a bad price though. Still
no, not at all.
Price. Especially when you compare it to, again, the SSAE X or whatever trigger that they compared it to, which is like $200 on sale, $250, $300 standard. Because Giessele triggers are way too expensive. When again, I may be slightly controversial for this crowd, but a mil-spec or a mil-spec plus trigger is perfectly fine for me. Although, of course, I do prefer a lighter trigger, and most of the time a 2-stage trigger if I'm not trying just to go as fast as possible. But yeah, Julian has a lot of the MBT2Ss, and they're great triggers. Again, mine's just a little gritty, but I've only had it for like 2 weeks at this point. So I haven't shot it very much because it's in a 6.5 Creedmoor build. So Illustrious says that he has purchased 6 of the MBTSs, and they vary in quality. Interesting. This is the only one that I think that I've shot, so I have no reference point other than the one that I currently have. So
I have one of my 7.62 by 39. I've shot that one a lot. That one's got a heavy spring in it. It works fine. I have one in my 12.5. I've shot that one probably the most out of the ones that I own. And I can't tell a difference between that one, the one in my 12.5 that I've shot the most, and the one in my AR-10 that's $3 a shot. So I've only put maybe 100 rounds through that gun. So
and that's the AR-10 that's chambered in 7.08, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Is that really that expensive? That's crazy.
Oh, it depends. It depends. Sometimes it's $350. Sometimes it's like $2.
Oh yeah.
And I got a box of like precision loads from unknown munitions that were like $5 a round. So
yikes, that's crazy expensive. Is there a singular cheap 7mm load out there? Does anybody make one?
I have no idea.
Of any caliber.
I mean, 7 mag can be reasonably inexpensive if you get like Remington.
I wonder why 7mm isn't more popular, considering it kind of does the same thing that 6.8 does.
It should be 7mm supremacy.
Andrew Bashan for $4.99. Thank you very much, sir. He says he owns like 12 Giessele SSA/SAE triggers. They are more consistent than the LaRue. Again, that's something I can't comment on because I only have one LaRue and one Giessele at a time, usually, because usually I sell off whatever the other Giessele is in. And the Giessele that I do have is a G2S, which is their cheapest trigger, which can be found on sale for about $99. So, but I like Giessele products. Again, I'm an unpaid Bill shill. I just think that the Border Patrol that we're looking at is a step back in most ways. And again, it costs nearly the same. Now, if this competed directly against BCM in terms of price, like if they cut out, the REBCG, the trigger, cut out a lot of the rail on, no pun intended, the muzzle device, maybe even put in a mil-spec charging handle and charge like $1,200 for it. So it's like right there alongside a BCM. But the difference is that you're getting a, I guess really at that point, the only difference is you're getting a Giessele barrel. But if it's competing directly against BCM, I think that would be better. But the fact that it's $1,700 still puts it up against things like LWRC, the Giessele Super Duty, which is actually very close in price, and a lot of other top tier ARs. And it's just simply not worth it for the cutbacks, especially the REBCG. I'm a big fan of the REBCG, and losing it is a terrible idea. Again, if you want a Giessele light, they make the ALG already, which is a very slim 7-sided M-LOK rail. It bolts directly to the barrel nut. It does need to be timed, but if you're buying it from them, it doesn't really matter. And again, this one even comes with a crappy Chinese knockoff red dot sight. So that's a great deal. But we should probably move in to our next topic, which for some reason just crashed out on me. But I don't know if you're aware of this theory.
Andrew Vachon came in before we changed topics and says that both this rifle and the El Jefe should not exist. And I
So
agree.
Andrew, you don't need a super chat again, but I'm curious, what is your argument against the El Jefe? Because the El Jefe is $1,200, right? And it's just an ALG rifle, so it's like basic mil-spec E plus parts for $1,200. Like that, there's not much to complain about there. And as long as the assembly quality is like the rest of what I've gotten from Giessele, then I don't really have a problem with it. Now, if you're talking about the Sling Red Dot combo, yeah, you should cut those out and give me a rifle for $1,000. That would make me happier. Illustrious Caveman, because we were talking about this, so I actually have the Rise 140. He said, I just had a Rise 140 break, and they warrantied it instantly. I filled out a form, and they had a replacement in the mail within an hour. Wow, that's fast. Not great that it broke, but the QA is legitimate. Yeah, no, that's really good to hear. I actually have a RA 140, probably in a bag behind me. I forget what it's in right now. But yeah, I have one, and it hasn't broken yet. But that is good to hear about their customer service. Nomatron with the $4.99. Thank you very much, sir. Focustripp equals the best gun tuber in the land. Well, thank you, sir. Pumped for that dissipator you are building me. Yeah, you just need to send an email to CAC and tell them to send me the barrels, and I'll get it right out for you, sir. Unless it's the 12.5. If it's the 12.5, it's sitting in a bag right behind me because I had to do some test firing yesterday as well. So depending on which one that is, you're going to get it very fast. Jake Groob, because he probably sees what we're coming up with. This is Olight, when you need hand grenades that sometimes function as weapon lights. That is the bonus feature. It's like an Easter egg in a game, you know, where you press the right button combo and then you do like a super jump or something like that. With the Olights, they just explode. So Olight, I'm sure you've probably seen some videos on this. They released a optic called the O-Sight, and it's an interesting little guy, for lack of a better term. Do you have any thoughts on the O-Sight?
It looks like a red dot. It projects a red dot on a piece of glass, so in that sense, it functions like a red dot.
Sorry, it's green. It's not even red.
I mean, it's a dot. It functions as a dot. It mounts to an RMR footprint, so that's a thing.
It did come out with the correct. So something that I'll take a jab at primary arms real fast. It did come out in an RMR mount. Isn't that something? They didn't bring it out in a doctor mount or whatever, Noblex or something. It's an RMR mount. Isn't that something?
I mean, that's the nicest thing that I can come up with.
Yeah. So I'm somebody. I don't know how you guys feel, but I like big windows. If you give me a pistol dot with a bigger window, that's perfectly fine. I'm actually using your Trijicon Dual Illum, and when going from like my other Holosun dots and other RMR clones that I've been using recently, I find that window actually pretty darn small and kind of annoying, honestly.
Yeah, that dual loom is pretty annoying, especially since it's got that hefty notch filter on it.
That purple tint is crazy.
It is really crazy.
I'm going to end up being very unkind to that optic, by the way.
I don't care, as long as it comes back in one piece.
It will do that. It will do that. So optic runtime, 70,000+ hours on the lowest mode, which is completely unusable, and only 17 days at the brightest mode, which is probably also unusable in most situations.
I'm thinking that the whole thing is unusable.
Well, that's what we're going to get to in a minute, that you might as please do not buy this optic. Should you even call it an optic if it doesn't hold zero?
As I said,
it doesn't actually give you a point of aim. There is just a dot projected onto a screen, right? It's not
exactly.
It's not actually giving you any information.
I think in the technical sense, it's an optic.
Well, would it be described better as a ghost ring sight with a little
that's the better way to put it,
or something like that, and then just have like your super tall front sight post? And you put it on the new Glock 17L, which is like, 6.2 inches or something like that? That, functions as a ghost ring sight. So a couple novel things before we talk about some of the other YouTubers who have talked about it, is that it uses this charging box, which actually fits down onto the charging receptacle on top here. And I think it holds 3 charges in the box. So that's kind of...
Civilian Tactical said that that's good for 15 years.
That 15 years. Well, 3 charges. No, that's not possible. That's simply not possible. Not if you actually use it on a real brightness setting.
I think he also quoted it as at 70,000 hours or something like that. Or maybe it was
Yeah,
20
but 70,000 hours on the lowest setting. Now, it can last 15 years in a safe, for sure. I don't think that's going to be a problem for it whatsoever. Now, the problem with that 15-year number that we'll get to in just a minute is that the internal battery that is not replaceable, I don't know why companies are doing this. Holosun tried it. Some success, I would say. And some of the optics, like the SCS on pistols, on like direct mounted to a Glock MOS or whatever handgun that you may have, kind of a cool concept with that solar recharge. So you don't have to put a box on top of it. You just have to use it, and it will slowly over time recharge. So in theory, you never have to replace it. And of course, it's Holosun, so they're a lot bigger. Their products are a lot more mature now. So if you do 5-10 years down the road have an optic go out, the odds are that they'll fix it for you and, you know, replace the internal battery that you can't replace on your own and get it back. But with this, you USB-C charge the box, which does have a kind of cool display on top. I do like the display. I think it looks pretty good. And then you put this on your optic. It's novel, I suppose. I suppose that is a good way to put it, or the most flattering way you can put it. But I don't think this is going to be attractive to a lot of people. The only thing that is going to be attractive to it is the price, and of course, the people who shill it. So this is Civilian Tactical. This is somebody who's actually commented on some of my videos in the past. I've never really interacted with this person. He seems like a nice enough guy, but maybe he's a little bit too soft on certain products, let's say.
Just play the video. I think the video explains it well enough.
It does for sure. And it just, trigger warning for anybody out there, it does have the retention editing for zoomers. So yeah,
I've ever seen. And
now, one thing I do have to confirm, can you guys hear the audio on this tab, or do I have to share it a different way?
That's because it lasts 15 years.
Can you guys hear that or no? Let me know if you guys can hear it, because if you guys can hear it, I'll keep playing it. Otherwise, I'll have to share it a different way. I'm hearing he's King Goof. I'm hearing he's Fed. Feels unsafe. AR 500 armor. AR 500 armor makes the best targets possible. Brian Isaacs for the $2. Thank you, sir. Comes in and says this versus the Ruger Ready Dot. Man, I have zero interest in the Ready Dot whatsoever. That looks like a nightmare. I can imagine putting something unzeroable on your gun and hoping that whenever you have to use it in a hurry, it's within that like 5 to 10 yard window where it literally doesn't matter. All right, so unfortunately, they can hear the man. So we are going.
Right here is the most unnecessarily absurd and amazing optic I've ever seen. And that's because it lasts 15 years. Well, sort of. Let me show you how this works. Now, you might be used to replacing the optic on your handguns, but no.
Why are you used to replacing the optics on your handgun?
You think that was a slip? I don't think it was a slip. I think he was actually being honest for a change.
Maybe, well, here's the thing. Maybe if you do just put in really like Amazon special, like $30 to $50 red dots, you are used to changing them out often. But you got to remember, this site's $230, right? So it's low Holosuns are going to be competing right alongside this dot, and I can tell you which one is going to be of higher quality. That's for sure. Okay, so let's keep this guy rolling.
Not with the O sight, because true to Olight fashion, they have a recharging case that actually...
Isn't this the only recharging case that they have?
I think...
I mean, I haven't touched an Olight product in probably 4 years at this point.
I think Olight's thing is they have magnetic chargers.
Yeah. They do have magnetic stuff, but a box charger? I don't think this is their thing.
No, they've got flashlights that you can like put in a box and it recharges them.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've ever touched one of their EDC flashlights. Charging cases. Okay, yeah, so I didn't know this. Maybe this is their thing.
Recharges your optic. The O sight on level 5 will last for 34,000 hours, which is like over a year. So
I really like the way that that estimation 34,000 is like over a year, as if it's not like an objective number that you could just pull up. I didn't see that that 34,000 number.
Theory, if you load up the charging case one time, put this on level 5, and recharge it once every 3 or so years, this optic will last 15 years.
His math is also just off there. Right? Because if you get 3 charges in the case, 1 in the optic, right? So you get 4 total charges times 3 years is 12, not 15.
Okay, so he's a dumbass and he can't do math.
Yeah, and again, keep in mind that this framing is completely nonsense, right? He's saying on setting 5, which I guarantee you setting 5 is not usable. So it's like saying if you leave it off in a dark room, it will last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It sure will.
Sure it will. Not that useful.
Now let's shoot this thing. So thank you to Bullet Vault for our ammunition. Make sure to check them out.
Okay, you have a 60-second short, and there is a sponsored spot in the middle. That is good branding.
But you can stack ammo, and they'll store it for you.
Ooh, maybe we should talk about Bullet Vault. I kind of hate the concept of Bullet Vault, but maybe we should talk about that after.
Craziest part is the fact that it can, if you choose it to, auto-sense the brightness of the environment in front of it.
All right, over/under on whether or not that auto sensor will fail at the worst possible time.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. Now, I think to be fair, I believe that you can turn that off. So if it's bad, you can just turn it off. Now, so yeah, Isaiah Islander comes in and he says you're looking at 88,760 hours in here. Again, it is just a number you could look up if you so desired. Oh, wait a second. Sorry, I hate doing that. See, he's not shooting at paper there. He's shooting at steel. Because you can hear in the middle of a string of fire, he hits the steel target. And then the other 4 are going who knows where. Yeah.
I mean,
so he just misses the rest of the
shot. Sound is added in post.
No, I'm sure. Like, he looks like he can hold a handgun. He can shoot just fine. I'm just being a little overcritical here.
I'm not saying that he can't hold a handgun and he can shoot just fine. I just think he's shooting into a berm and adding the sounds in post.
See, that sounds like more work. That sounds like way more work. Like if I had to do that, as opposed to just like literally.
But it's worth it if he's making the 15% on Olight sales.
Oh, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that because again, if you notice that in this video, he did not mention, anything like that. So
of course he didn't. Why would he do that? That would affect his bottom line. I mean, it's just illegal, but...
Well, yeah, it is an SEC violation, but don't worry about that.
Stay fun, stay free.
Wait a second.
Stay fun.
Was that one? Okay, so... Wait, was that a cut?
Stay fun.
That was not on target when...
Stay fun.
Look at that. He does not hit the target here. That is not on the target. Right? Watch him. He's going to pull the trigger and there's going to be a hit sound. Now, maybe he's hitting the metal post that it's on. See? You hear the metal, but he is not aiming at the target whatsoever. He is aiming at the metal post there. And he hits the post like 2 feet underneath the target there. Now, to be fair, he's probably aiming with one hand while looking through a view screen of a camera, which is not easy to do as someone who does aim through a GoPro at times. It is not easy to do, but yeah, great video. Now, if you look at Civilian Tactical's channel, he has 2.3 million subscribers, and he looks at, of course, the top link is SDI, which might be a future video at some point. Put that in quotations. But again, for 2.3 million subscribers, he's averaging, that's 78. That did good. 10, 5, 6, 8, 2, 6, 53.
If you guys super chat enough, I will take a course at SDI and review it for you.
That's expensive.
Well, you know, crowdfunding. If it's what the people want.
Yeah, I just don't think that's going to happen. That's a lot of super chats, man. And then you got to think that you're just buying Raja Mahan a new car at that point if you're spending that much in super chats.
Probably, but still.
Oh no! Should we look at the comments on that? Where did I find it?
I got you on a small screen.
There's also one of these things. Have you noticed this where people are comparing really cheap Monstrum products to like top of the line, like $2,000 scopes, and saying they're comparable?
We can do that too. I've got so many thousands of dollars worth of optics in my safe right now.
Where did that Olight video go though? I don't want to have to find it. Oh, here it is.
Right here is the.
Do I have to look at the comments on this? Can we actually see these? Can you guys see this all right? I could probably make it bigger. How do I make it bigger? That's better.
You're like half size on my screen, so I can't see it, but we'll just pretend like I don't need to.
No, yeah. It's different for us. Overton. Now I'm sure he's a Fed. It also doubles as a grenade when you run out of ammo. Zesty. The O-site, aka the reviewer's honesty test. That's a rough one. Yep, a lot of things about the poor glass quality, not holding 0. Somebody just ordered 2. Sorry about that. I do like the Canic though. I am a fan of Canics, even though they are kind of not in that same category, but they definitely are underneath other companies in terms of quality control and reliability in some ways, even though I carry one. Andrew Bashan comes in with a $4.99 and he says, I actually went to SDI. If you want someone on that, let me know. I have many thoughts about them. Well, are you at a computer right now? Because this is kind of a nonsense stream this week. I just got a few topics to go through, and I thought I would talk about Giessele and Olight because those are my 2 favorite companies in very different ways. So if you want to hop on, if you're at a computer, I'd have you on. That'd be fun.
If you're not at a computer, send John a message on Instagram and with your email address, and I'll get back to you here in a few minutes. Or
yeah, and we could hit you up for a later point in time and make that happen because that would be cool. Because I've also heard mixed things about that, which makes me very interested in the fact that they're charging people thousands of dollars for services. So, anyways, all right. So, are you familiar? That's the wrong one. Don't share that. That's ours. Although there's nothing on there, so I don't really care. But where is it? Where? That's not it. Shoot, I lost it. Vintage Warfare. There you are. All right. So Vintage Warfare, if you guys aren't familiar with this guy, he does really good work. He has a really good YouTube channel, obviously focusing on more vintage stuff. And he also makes some reels. And he actually, this is, I think, the first time I saw Civilian Tactical and some of these other content creators is Vintage Warfare was going after them and making fun of them. And he's very entertaining and very funny. So you should probably give him a follow if you're interested in maybe making fun of some of these people. Now, somebody earlier mentioned Overton Windex, and actually Vintage Warfare has actually also gone after this guy, Overton Windex. And Overton Windex did a review on the Olight, and his conclusion was, we don't need to watch the video, but just for reference, and I have no experience with him or his channel whatsoever, but his experience with the optic was very similar to what we'll get to with other people, is the fact that it just doesn't hold 0. And so because it didn't hold 0 on any of his guns, it's completely useless, because again, at that point, you might as well not have a red dot on your gun. If when you pull up using that point of aim, if it's not reliable, it's detrimental to shooting performance, because I mean, you might as well not have any sights or just use your iron sights at that point. It's true. Jake Grube comes in and he says, if you need a cheap optic, buy Holosun. Need a cheap light, buy Streamlight. I agree in general. And I do have some Holosun products and a lot of Streamlight products, actually.
Also for Swamp Fox, too. Everything Swamp Fox that I've used has been pretty decent.
For sure, yeah. I don't think I've ever had... wasn't a huge fan of their old Tomahawk line.
Is that the second focal plane 1 to 10?
No. That's the Arrowhead. Their new Tomahawk line looks fairly cool. So at some point in the future, we might take a look at that. I mean, we don't really need to talk about this one, do we?
Do we need to talk about Such? Such is a shill. We've known he's been a shill for like 10 years now.
Now, apparently, also... Well, so he does have his links in the description, as he should. But apparently, also, he was part of the development process of the O sight. And he worked with them to develop it, because he actually has early prototypes that were not released. Which I think is fairly interesting. But, of course, his review is much more positive than the other people that have had issues with it. The first review that I watched on it, which is a good video, I've already liked it, of course, is from Deskpop. And Deskpop did a video. I think he had 2 different optics sent out by Olight. And, of course, go check out his video. But neither of them held 0. And he could very simply knock them off just by lightly tapping them with a magazine, which is probably not as harsh as recoil on most handguns. And it would just wildly shift 0 left, right, up, and down, which... Again, if you're depending on that, basically makes it worthless. All right. Now you wanted to talk about that because I think we've talked about the Olight O-sight enough. Bottom line is, for $200, don't buy it. For $100, probably still don't buy it. Yeah.
Unless they're giving it to you for free, which, I mean, if they're giving it to you for free, take it and sell it to somebody that doesn't know any better. And then go buy a Holosun.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a Holosun you can get in a couple places. I wouldn't say where, but you can get Holosuns, the 407C and the 507C, for like below $200, if not just under $200, which is pretty darn inexpensive for a
shootingllc.com and look under the optics tab.
Sure, you could do that as well, but it's just they're super reliable optics. So now you wanted to talk about this. We'll go ahead and move on to LaRue makes a battle knife. You wanted to talk about this, so why don't you?
I was just thinking about new stuff that came out this week. So while everybody was focused on what's going on in Texas District 23 with Brandon Herrera, Marky Mark released a brand new knife. He released a knife, and it sold out in like 20 minutes. The knife was $400. But I mean, honestly, for a knife of this quality, it's probably not that bad. The knife that I carry on a daily basis is about $500, and it's also made in America. Same quality steel. Steel of this caliber isn't cheap. S30VN, by the way, Tyler K. Yeah, the steel's S30. So that's not terrible. It's actually pretty decent, and it's made in the LaRue, the LaRue machine shop. It's not.
Oh, so they're actually making it in house. Interesting.
Yeah, it's not made. It's not made by a OEM, which is the case for most high end knives now.
Sure.
$400 is a bit steep, but
For
for
sure.
being made in house, it's not terrible, honestly.
How into knives are you?
A little bit. Why? What do we got?
Well, I'm just curious because I know the knife industry is kind of crazy and the people in it are kind of weird. Crazy. Microtech and stuff like that, and some of these other big knife makers, and it's like just this little thing, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And they tell me the price, and I'm like, what?
I carry a ProTech. I carry a ProTech. It's an auto folder, so you push a button and it flips out. And the steel on that to get the knife that I wanted with the features that I wanted was about $500. A $500 knife feels like a $500 knife when you hold it, though. So it's nuts.
Hop comes in with a very good idea, and I think you'll like this, Gary. It says, step 1, buy a LaRue knife. Step 2, buy Giessele Super Duty Stabby Mount, Super Stabby Mount. I automatically associate super with duty when I'm talking about Giessele. Illustrious Caveman says step 2 is cry. Yes, that's correct. Then step 3, 3D print an adapter so you can use your LaRue knife as a bayonet.
Hop, what rifle are we putting this on?
You're putting it on a... Shoot, what's a really good one to put it on? What's a really meme one to put it on?
Anderson AM15?
Ooh, no, yeah, like a dissipator, like one of the Anderson dissipator rifles. I think that is a fantastic option. Brian Isaacs became a YouTube channel member. Thank you very much for that, sir. I have no idea how those work whatsoever, so I imagine that's just like a $5 super chat. So thank you very much. I think you get access to some really silly, what are they called? Emotes or something? I really should probably actually pay somebody to make real ones that are funny and interesting, but we will see. We will see. Yeah, Anderson Dissipator. That's what you should put it on. Yeah, that's the one. Glonk Respector says $400 for a knife isn't a lot, but a gun guy, me, thinks the police trade-in Glock you could get. Yeah, so if I'm spending $400 on something non-gun related, my first thought is going to be, that's a case of ammo. Well, it's a case of ammo, right? And I'm also thinking, like, if I get a case of ammo, like, I can do a lot with a case of ammo in terms of video production. Like, 1,000 rounds on film is a lot. But with a knife, I'm like, what am I doing with a knife? Like, if I make a dedicated video on the knife, it's a singular video.
I looked at it this way. Number 1, it was a Father's Day present. Number 2, it was a 10-year anniversary of getting my Space Wings. So those are, I'll get something nice. And number 3, I carry a knife with me. I carry a knife and a gun with me on a daily basis. And the knife gets used a lot more than the gun. So
for sure. Yeah. I have, so I'll let you know what I carry. So I carry a knife that K Tactical actually sent out to me. It is a complete meme knife because it has like Kwai aesthetic on it. And so it's like probably a $20 knife. But it cuts things. So I open boxes with it. I open a lot of boxes with it. SKS would be very funny.
I have several meme knives that I could show off on stream. But
you can show off knives on stream, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but you don't need to run and go get them. It's not a problem.
Okay, hang on. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, fine. Then we could go over some really depressing news, unfortunately. And that is going to be the fact that apparently Brandon Herrera yesterday lost his congressional bid by 400 votes, just over 400 votes, which is a really, really close call. And I mean, he did fantastically well. I think he spent something like $8 million less than his opponent for a congressional seat. So kind of crappy. Now, this was the primary election, so this was just for who gets to go onto the general, I believe. Not a politician, don't really pay that much attention to politics, but he is unfortunately out. So he probably would have been good for the state of Texas because the state of Texas needs some more wins. Tyler K says, praying for my fellow Texans, lol. Yeah, rough day for some of those guys, but he was very close, which is a good thing, which is a very, very good thing. Mystery Man comes in and says, another APAC or IPAC? Is it APAC or IPAC? I forget how it's actually pronounced. Steel. Yeah, I mean, when you get a lot more money, like again, $8 to $10 million more for just one seat, that's a lot of money to throw around, and that money comes from somebody, somewhere, somehow. Shoddy says, big sad. Yeah, it would have been cool. Not just for the memes and the fact that he would have been in Congress, which would have been very funny, but also because he probably would have been good for, stuff like what we do. The Great Awakening, greater than the Great Reset. Yes, hopefully. Hopefully. C. Buyer says he has never been more disappointed in two things. One, old people aren't on Twitter. I don't know if you want old people on Twitter or X. Now, I'm not on Twitter or X. I never go on there unless somebody sends me a link. But yeah, other than that, number two, that young people are lazy when it comes to voting. I think a lot of young people are just disillusioned with voting and what it gets them. So I think a lot of them choose to abstain rather than to waste their time, money, and energy. At least that's the way they feel. I don't know if it's just outright laziness, but when you feel it doesn't do anything and you feel like you're just wasting your time, I feel like a lot of them just choose not to.
If voting worked, they wouldn't let you do it.
There are usually some shady shenanigans going on in the back end. No pun intended in Congress.
I'm trying not to be too much of a doomer about it. Like, I want to think that Brendan Herrera did so well. He came less than 400 votes away from winning.
It's super close. Super close.
Super close. And I want to say that that's going to make Tony Gonzalez think twice about the nonsense that he's pulling.
But sure.
I think more likely he's just gonna keep going the way that he's going because he thinks he can't lose. So,
well, you got to think, when he gets all of that money to win, he still has to appease the people that got him there, right?
Right.
So, I mean, he got that extra $8 to $10 million in funding or whatnot. I mean, it's a lot to say no to. So if he pisses those people off, he's not going to win the next election anyways.
Yeah.
Now, Mystery Man does come in with an important point, which I think can be true. Too many Zoomers are doomers. Yeah, I do notice that a lot in our community. You either have people that are really optimistic for almost no reason, and then you have people that are super pessimistic and like accelerationist in some ways, which can be very funny in some ways, the accelerationist mindset, but is also not really productive for anyone in the current state. So I do get that. Mace fell out the window. That's a good one. For $10. Thank you very much, sir. Says, here's y'all talking about $500 being unreasonable to pay for some things. Removes MP5 CAC 99049 from Gunbroker watch list. See, that was a lot of letters and numbers that I don't understand, so I have to actually look that up.
I saw MP5K or MP5
CAC
and a
MP5K?
CAC. Well, no.
Oh.
Well, there's an MP5 and a CAC. So I'm assuming that we're talking Knight's Armor.
Oh, yeah. I see it. I can show this on screen. This won't get me banned. So it's unavailable here on Optics Planet, of course, but I'm imagining on Gunbroker this thing is like stupid expensive. So now I have to know how much you had it for on Gunbroker. If that little piece of aluminum is $500, then I guess you're welcome, because I saved you $500 with that. Nope, that didn't pop up. Can we do CAC? Whoa, buddy! No, that's $1,600. You can't do that. That's insane. What are you talking about? $1,600 for that little piece of aluminum? Don't you know that UTG is making parts for the MP5 now? How dare you? $1,600. You're insane. In a good way. No problems to people who actually spend money on things that they like for niche reasons. Like, if you have the money, that's awesome, right? But, for me, from who's a value YouTuber, aka a poor, when I see something like that, man, it's just funny. It's funny. But Gary, what do you got there?
You want to see some memes? I got some memes.
I see some sharp things on screen and I get scared.
All right, I'm gonna move the camera a little closer so we can see what's going on here. Okay. So let's show off my short memes. So
before you do that real fast, just give me 1 second. 1 second. Julian says, I don't vote, as any form of democracy is wrong. And that is because Julian is a monarchist. I'm calling it right now. Go for it. Sorry.
Okay. So we have, ow. Let's not cut my hand off.
Live on stream. Please don't do that.
We have a gladiator shaped machete from
very cool.
From Cold Steel. My buddy introduced me to this because he's got one that he painted desert tan and put on his plate carrier. And I was
really?
like, okay, I guess I got to do it. Yeah, it's hilarious. I'll send you a picture of it later. We got the real memes. Oh, can you see that?
It's very cute.
It's sprinkles.
I like it.
That one's actually this one's actually a pretty decent knife. A steel on it. I don't remember what steel is on it. It's like $60 or something like that. They're not bad.
It's not terrible, no.
No. This one is a complete joke.
Oh, it's a hot dog. Look at that.
It's a hot dog with no tip on it. And
the tip is the best part.
It's auto.
Oh, where'd you get that from? Who makes that?
This is Boker. Yeah, this is Boker. This is AK. It's called an automatic Kalashnikov. I don't know why. And this is what I carry on a daily basis. This guy right here is what I carry on a daily basis. And
that's not the same size as the one I carry. Yeah.
Yeah. That one is $500.
Yeah. That's actual quality. Mine is a joke, but again, it is a sharp piece of metal that opens boxes, so it works great for me. And
this one goes on my plate carrier, or not my plate carrier, my battle belt. This works really well for opening up food meals.
Right. I do see a lot of people carrying those. What are they called? Karambit style knives? Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually, they were designed, from what I gather, for like harvesting crops in Indonesia.
Oh, okay.
So like you hold them like
reverse
like
blade, right?
Yeah, reverse. Yeah. You hold them reverse. I guess it works better in this hand. I don't know how it works, but you hold them reverse on the inside, and then you can like cut grass and reeds and stuff like that pretty well. As I said, they work really, really good for opening up hay bales, which is most of what my knives get used for, anyways. So,
right. That's the joys of having farm animals. Now, Hop comes in and he says, all you have to do to modernize the MP5 is simply spend $900 on a Knight's tri-rail. Now, my approach to modernizing the MP5 was slightly different. I sold it and never looked back. If I can talk. Jeez. Yeah, CAC fanboys absolutely cred maxing out here. Yeah. Speed run your maximum credit card debt. That's a good way to do it.
Well, all you got to do is declare bankruptcy, and then what are they going to do?
That's a good point. I think we should do that every 7 years. Just get like $50,000 in credit, and then max it out, and then immediate bankruptcy. I think that's my financial advice for the day. Luke8995 comes in and he says, Super Duty versus LWRC complete rifle. Well, depending on sales, let's say that they're the same price, which usually they're pretty close in terms of price. There we go. Usually we're pretty close in terms of price. I would probably, that's actually a really tough one because I like both a lot. However, if I'm going to suppress one, the Super Duty is undoubtedly better and better gassed. However, the LWRC is fantastic. The rails are fantastic. The BCGs are fantastic. So are the Super Duties, but the barrels are both great on both pinned gas blocks. One is like a press fit taper pin, and the other one is just a roll pin that's put in there. But the Giessele's going to have the better trigger. It's really going to be up to you. If you're going to suppress, I think the Giessele's going to run better suppressed out of the box versus the LWRC, which needs like a really heavy buffer, an A5 system, or replacing the gas tube to get it to run perfectly without replacing too many parts. But thank you for the $5. So it kind of depends. probably 6 times out of 10 I would choose the Super Duty, but I do love the LWRCs quite a bit. Sorry, I'm going to message Andrew Vachon because he actually is going to come in and talk about SDI one of these weeks. So we will get him on.
Oh, sweet. You want me to take care of that? Send me his email address and
I can just forward his. I can forward his. He's DMing me on Instagram, so I will just send him your profile or send you his profile, whichever one works better.
Cool. Andrew, you're going to be talking to me now.
Live
it's just because that's my job. I've only cut myself a couple of times.
I cut myself like 3 weeks ago really bad, but it's healed up now. But that's just because I'm an idiot and I was opening a box like literally right towards my other hand. Luke8995 comes in and he says, also want to test my LWRC M6A1 upper. Need to get it pinned and welded anyways. Yeah. So if you send it in, I will absolutely pin and weld it for free if you let me do a video on it. So, I mean, that's only a $20 value, so not a big deal. But something that I did get in, if it's hiding from me, it's actually sitting right here. This is, I finally have the last one. This is the LMT something. I believe this is the 12.5 version. So now I finally have a LMT in to test. Now, if you don't know anything about LMTs, this is one piece. So there's no handguard here. This is one piece. It comes with a special tool, and you loosen these 2 screws, and you can barrel out the front and then rebarrel it with whatever you want. So it's a very cool, very expensive system. I want to say these start at around $1,500 for the upper, and then go up to about $2,000 to $4,000 for the rifles, depending on what you're getting. So. Manheiden comes in and he says, with inflation the way it is, you are losing money by not maxing out your credit cards. Yeah. So that's the thing with inflation. Inflation is good for the debtor because it makes your money that you owe less valuable. So in contrast. So when we all owe millions of dollars, we can be consoled by the fact that inflation is so high that it's going down shortly. Yeah, go ahead and just send me an email.
If I owe the bank $1,000, it's my problem. If I owe the bank $10 million, it's the bank's problem.
Right. I mean, what are they going to do? What's the difference at that point? Tyler K, I don't think it's heavy because it's machined really well. So it kind of looks like just a standard forged upper receiver with a few tweaks. But yeah, the handguard and the upper receiver are one piece, which removes a lot of the need for like your mounting system and whatnot. So it actually takes a lot of steel out of the gun. So it doesn't necessarily add a lot of weight. Now, a lot of LMTs are piston guns and they have like other components that are fairly heavy. So it kind of depends. Hopefully not. Hopefully not full Fight Club. Hopefully we have a little bit of time because as somebody else mentioned, like they have little kids, I have little kids. So the longer we put off the apocalypse, the better. All right. I'm messaging another guy. Is there anything else you wanted to cover tonight, Gary?
I saw a comment up here, and I wanted to talk to you about it. Where'd it go?
Sure.
Where'd it go? Sorry. Something about notch filters, tint on glass, well, in general, tint on glass, and being colorblind.
I don't know about the colorblind thing, because as far as I'm aware, I can see colors. Everything's just a really nice shade of gray, which is fantastic. Actually, that would be weird to be aiming with a red dot sight while colorblind. I've never really thought about that before.
So my brother is extremely colorblind.
Wow.
And he cannot, he can't tell the difference between red and green at all. And he used to have one of those Vortex 30mm tube red dots. It's got red and green in it.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't remember what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about. And I was messing with it, and I changed it from red to green, and he couldn't tell that I changed it from red to green. He could just tell that the brightness changed.
Right.
He got all pissed off at me, but apparently, according to him, like we were looking at other optics, like the Huey, and shoot, what
the
else
Huey
was
is
it?
super blue.
We were looking at the Huey, the Vector Continental 1 to 10, and he couldn't see the discoloration in the glass at all
on the Huey,
on either of them.
Well, so you were noticing chromatic aberration with the Continental 1 to 10, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something that's more specific.
It wasn't the 1 to 10. It was the
R Mark.
No, it wasn't an R. It wasn't the R Mark one's actually really clean.
Yeah.
It was an old SLX 1 to 6. It's a little blue.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, that's
and I've got a pair
interesting.
of Vortex
I've never really thought about
binos.
it. Uh-huh.
I got a pair of Vortex binos, and the one side where the screen's displayed is really blue. I mean, SIG has a tendency to have things that are super, super blue, and you can't see it at all. So I don't know. It was a thing that he wanted me to bring up. Maybe we could talk about it a little bit. Maybe somebody else has an experience like that. I don't know.
So my experience with notch filters is, as somebody who doesn't have any sort of colorblind issues, is that as long as it's not the most noticeable thing in the world and it doesn't make the image blend together, it's not terrible and it's usually fine. Now, funny thing you should mention that, because the most aggressive notch filter that I've ever used is actually yours on the the Dual-Illum. And not only is it a weird, like really aggressive notch filter, but it's purple. It's the only purple filter that I've seen. I know, right? Absolutely crazy.
It's better than the like horribly green one that was on the. I sent that one back to TreasureCon because there was a problem with the tritium, and it went in gold and it came back green, and it was like exceptionally. It was an exceptionally green notch filter when it went in.
Really?
Yeah.
And then it came back the color that it is now?
Yeah.
Jeez. I wonder if they just updated the coatings on it, like in between. Do you know if it was the same red dot, or if they sent you?
No, they gave me a new one.
Okay, they gave you a new one. That's why. Yeah, it's probably some sort of upgrade in the product line, quote unquote. Man, so if we want to talk about the Dual-Illum for a second,
Sure.
I think I was going to phrase it something like, it is mostly usable in most circumstances.
It's definitely usable in daylight.
Yes, unless you're looking at a bright surface, and then it goes away. Or a bright, like, I was shooting probably an hour before sunset, and I had like, an array of targets as usual. When I was pointing at targets where the sun was behind it, the dot does not, like, because you can't just make the dot brighter.
Right. It's not great.
It was just like, I am literally staring with nothing right now. There is nothing in my window. And then when I'm looking at my other targets, though, it all looks great. Like, it's a really crisp dot. The triangle is kind of nice. I kind of like it. It doesn't bloom out whatsoever. But again, whenever I'm looking at something that's too bright, it's just, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do whatsoever. And then it's like, okay, so just use the iron sights. Now you're using iron sights through the most aggressive purple notch filter in a small window. Especially, my Glock is around here somewhere, but I'm using really tall sights, and so they're sitting like almost in the top half of the pistol glass, and so it is not a pleasant thing to use. Now, I was also using it under night vision, and when you have a good amount of ambient light, the tritium actually works perfectly. I think it works great.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is that
that's what I sent it to you for.
There's going to be a lot of footage of it. Yeah, well, here's the thing. It works really well when the ambient light is good. Okay. But again, because it doesn't adjust in brightness, when it gets really dark and like no light whatsoever, just like cloud cover or anything like that, it's then way too bright to be usable. And then when you're looking at stuff, because again, it doesn't, when there's a lot of ambient light around and the night vision device, whatever you're using, it's pretty good at dynamic range, like having a good contrast.
Are all of yours auto-gated?
Yeah, they're all auto. So I have one manual unit, I have 2 auto-gated Gen 3s, and then a manual Gen 2 Plus. And it's actually better on the Gen 2 Plus because it's less light sensitive than the Gen 3s. So it actually looks better on the worse unit than it does on the more expensive unit. The trade-off there is, of course, everything else looks worse, but the dot looks better on the Gen 2 Plus. So it's not unusable. It is just much brighter than I would like. It's like walking around with your dot on max brightness inside a house. You could technically still use it, especially inside of like 15, 20 yards, which is another conversation entirely. Passive aiming sucks. Like it's a meme. Like shooting, like there are, in really good lighting, you can shoot probably out to 100 yards on a high contrast target. But a lot of the times, like things just blend in. Like you do not see the target whatsoever with just passive aiming. If you do not have some sort of illumination, seeing targets and making effective hits on targets with passive aiming, even with really nice tubes, is kind of a meme. So the bottom line is passive aiming is, again, mostly usable in most circumstances with the Trijicon Dual Loom. But, of course, the flip side of that is that there are certain times when it just does not work whatsoever, which is kind of frustrating because it's like, what, a $400 optic, $450 optic?
I don't remember. I got it used, so.
I mean, even if they're
not...
Yeah, $100, what?
200. I think I spent $200 on it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, for $200, it's definitely worth it for like a low amount of money like that. But buying one brand new?
No.
Yeah, this one's not a Photonis. At least I don't know. I have the spec sheet over there. I don't know what the specs mean. I'm new to all of this sort of stuff. All right. Well, I think that's about it that we got for tonight because I didn't have anything else on the run sheet. It was kind of just a stopgap. Because what do we have coming up next? This should be fun.
So coming up next, we have got Blair Dell, who's a former Special Forces medic, to MARSOC. He's going to come in and talk about medicine and field medicine, and that should be fun. And then we're going to have us a little series. We're going to have a caliber shootout.
Yeah, so we're going to do like a bracket style tournament of different calibers and why 5.56 is the best.
Well, I mean, 5.56 is definitely up there. It probably won't lose in the first round.
Oh, no,
so that'll be fun.
There's no way it's getting knocked out in the first round. I don't know what you can put it up against.
That depends on what it's up against. So, but it's double elimination. So we're doing double elimination. I got 32 calibers. They're all things that are both widely available, and it's stuff that either I or John have shot and have some experience with. Mm-hmm. So there won't be, unfortunately, any 50 BMG on there because, number one, it's just not widely available, and number two, I don't have one. So, man.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, there's going to be calibers that I don't have any experience with, and then you have some, and then, of course, vice versa. So, I mean, that'll be a good topic. And be fun, of course, because if we take into like logistics supplies and stuff like that into the conversation, I think that's where a lot of these cartridges like beat out. And I think we might change the rules a little bit. I'll have to talk to you about that after. But so we got that coming up. We'll do a caliber shootout, and got a medic coming on, and then sorry, what's that?
LPVO tier list is coming.
Yeah. We're going to work on that. But also next week, supposedly, theoretically, you're going to have a different mic as well. So hopefully the audio issues will be at least improved. Right?
I'm hoping that I'll have it tomorrow. It's supposed to be here. It was supposed to be here on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it's allegedly close by. So hopefully it'll be delivered tomorrow.
Yeah. That is the joys of Washington USPS.
Oh well, I can't even blame Washington at this point because it got sent to Florida for some weird reason.
No.
And then
Where was it shipping from?
Connecticut.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's definitely their fault. It's definitely their fault. Have you done anything with 6Mac or seen anything on 6Macs?
A little bit. I try to keep up to date with like the new hotness, but it's not available. Like you can't go to a store. If you can't go to a store and buy it right now, and I used Sportsman's Warehouse near me to find out if you can go to a store and buy it right now, it's not going to make the list.
Yeah. Well, 6Max is still basically a prototype right now.
6-Dasher is not going to make the list.
But 6-Dasher is used by a lot of competition shooters.
Exactly. It's a fantastic cartridge. And there's probably an A-tier cartridge.
Listen, all you have to do is fire form your own brass, and you're good to go. What's wrong with that?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I think hand loading is fantastic, but it's not going to make the shootout if you can't go to a store and buy it right now.
So one thing I do want to say real fast about C. Byers comes in and he says 3,000 feet per second out of a 10-inch barrel. Sons of Liberty Gunworks hypes it. Yeah, so that is using a 6.5 Grendel case. No. Sorry, I lied. That's using a 5.56 case, expanded out to a, what's the 350 Legend spec? So it's actually longer, like slightly, the actual case, because it doesn't crimp at the same point, or something like that. Anyways, so it has a little bit higher case capacity than 5.56, and that 3,000 FPS number is using a 62 grain projectile at 6mm. Now, that has a horrible BC, but it will be very fast. So one of the advantages of the longer 6mm bullets is you can get a very high BC. And so, of course, yeah, when you shorten that bullet and you get a very light bullet, yeah, you can make it go real fast, but then now you have a way worse BC than just 5.56. So you're getting a fast projectile at the same weight as 5.56 with a worse BC than 5.56. Congratulations.
Do you know what bolt face it uses?
It uses the standard 5.56 bolt face, which is why it's the 350 Legend case.
Okay.
So you do, because the 350 Legend is slightly longer than 5.56, you do have to use those magazines instead, because it's the same bolt face and everything, but the cases are straight walled on a 350 Legend, so they simply crimp them at a different point on the 6Max to get them longer. I want to say, I might be saying that wrong, but that's how I understand it currently.
6Max can launch an 87 grain Burger VLD at 3,009 feet per second from a 24-inch barrel.
Yeah. 24-inch. He's talking about a 10-inch barrel. The 10-inch barrel is rated with a 62 grain projectile, I want to say.
I'm just reading the thing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam says they do start with a 350 Legend case. That's what I thought. Barnes says 22-250. I actually shot the LaRue Sieta in 22-250. Very nice caliber. Don't know what you would use it for, but it's a very nice caliber. Very fast, very flat. Yeah.
Coyotes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if you just want to get a target at 1,000 yards. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could crank the velocity. Imagine putting an M855A1 projectile on that thing.
That's exactly where my head was at.
Yeah, because you could probably get that close to 4,000 FPS.
Oh, yep. Just level 4 plates say what?
Actually, I wonder if Buffman Range has a video on that. That would be really cool, because I haven't seen any 22-250 content on anything other than like long range target shooting.
Right. Ooh, that might be fun.
Yeah.
Your Deadshot will make 16-inch 22-250 barrels. That might be a thing.
Yeah, but then I'm not hand loading though, so I can't make that stuff. Your video's gone, but I can still hear you.
What the heck?
But what I would say though is next up on the 14.5 6.5 Creedmoor is actually going to get rebarreled to a 6mm Creedmoor, and that is going to be a very fun, very fast, flat round.
Ooh.
There are so many 22 bullets. Sorry, what's that?
I said I've heard good things about 6 Creedmoor too.
Yeah. So it's of course a little more of a barrel burner, but you get even less recoil than 6.5 Creedmoor, and you get way higher velocities out of it because you're only pushing like a 108. Then you're pushing a 108 out of like a 16-inch barrel at like almost 3,000 FPS, with way higher BCs than what you're getting out of some of the 62 grain projectiles.
Honestly, I just don't know how to feel about it. I really don't know how to feel about it because it sounds a lot like a 243.
Yeah,
it sounds exactly like a 243.
Yeah. I'm actually curious what the advantage. No. It's a shorter case though, isn't it? It's a shorter, wider case.
I think it's same powder capacity. I think you can load the exact same bullets.
No, I totally agree. But isn't the 243 based off the 30-06 cartridge, which is longer, which would technically make it a? Oh, it is based off of 308. Huh. I don't even know what the difference would be at that point then. Yeah, so Link says 6 Creedmoor is a barrel burner. I totally agree. However, I'm only going to shoot like 300 to 500 rounds through it. So I don't really care if its barrel life is only 2,000 rounds of match accuracy. Because I'm just doing it for memes and testing and long range stuff. So yeah, that is sad. I didn't realize that was a 22-250 because Lori comes in and he says CRS, who is still in prison, is built a 22-250 shredder. So
yeah.
That is the thing about 22. 22s, you can get really good projectiles with the 22.
But we will continue this conversation. We will absolutely continue this conversation in our... There we go. We will continue this conversation in our rifle caliber shootout because we are going to talk about this for a while.
Yeah, I know. We could go on about 6mm cartridges forever because we could get into 6-, GT, and other silly things that we do for PRS. But with all of that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. Peace off.